Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the stars through the main window. His ship moved slowly through space near the Kepler 442 system. Today was special. Today, humans and Valorans would train together again. "Captain, the Valoran ships are coming into view," said Lieutenant Danny Cruz from his station. Jake smiled. He always felt happy when he saw Valoran ships. They looked different from human ships. Where human vessels were built for war, Valoran ships looked like they were made for peace. Their hulls were smooth and white, with gentle curves that reminded Jake of birds in flight. "Open communication with Admiral Cathmoran," Jake ordered. The main screen flickered to life. A tall, elegant figure appeared. Admiral Cathmoran was a Valoran with pale blue skin and large, kind eyes. He wore simple white robes instead of a military uniform. "Greetings, Captain Morrison," Cathmoran said in perfect English. His voice was soft and musical. "It is good to see you again." "Good to see you too, Admiral," Jake replied. "Are your ships ready for the training exercise?" "We are prepared, though I must admit, we still find it strange to practice war games. My people have not fought wars for over 1,000 years." Jake nodded. He understood. The Valorans were a peaceful race. They spent their time studying science, medicine, and philosophy. They had no armies, no weapons of war. Their few ships were built for exploration and trade, not fighting. That was why these training exercises were so important. 5 years ago, when humans first met the Valorans, both species had learned much from each other. The Valorans shared their advanced medical knowledge. They had cured diseases that killed millions of humans. Cancer, heart disease, even aging itself could now be treated with Valoran medicine. In return, humans taught the Valorans about defense. The galaxy was not as peaceful as the Valorans believed. There were species that would take advantage of their kindness. The Galactic Council, which ruled most of known space, had grown more hostile each year. "Captain," called out Ensign Maria Santos from the communications station. "Commander Bennett is calling from the diplomatic station." "Put her through," Jake said. Commander Lisa Bennett appeared on a smaller screen. She looked tired. Lisa had been working as Earth's main diplomat with the Valorans for 3 years. She spent most of her time on their homeworld, Serenity Prime. "Jake, I have some concerns I need to share with you," Lisa said. Her voice was serious. "What kind of concerns?" "The Galactic Council has been asking strange questions about our alliance with the Valorans. They want to know what technology we're sharing. They're also asking about our military cooperation." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. The Galactic Council was supposed to keep peace in the galaxy, but lately they seemed more interested in controlling everyone. "Have you told Admiral Carter about this?" Jake asked. "Yes, he's reviewing the situation. But Jake, there's something else. Ambassador Zeth Kalar is worried. He says his people are receiving fewer trade offers from Council species. Some Valoran colonies report that Council ships have been scanning their systems." Admiral Cathmoran's image flickered as he spoke. "Captain Morrison, we have detected unusual activity on our long-range sensors. Many ships are moving toward our territory." Jake's training kicked in. What kind of ships? Unknown. They are too far away to identify, but there are many of them. "Admiral Carter needs to know about this immediately," Jake said. "Lisa, can you get more information from the Valorans?" "I'll try. But Jake, I'm getting a bad feeling about this. The Council has never liked how quickly humans and Valorans became allies. They see us as a threat to their control." Jake understood. The Galactic Council had ruled space for thousands of years. They decided which species could trade with each other. They controlled technology sharing. They kept everyone separated and weak, but humans and Valorans had ignored those rules. They worked together as equals. They shared knowledge freely. In just 5 years, both species had advanced more than they had in centuries. Continue the training exercise, Jake ordered, but keep all sensors on maximum alert. If anything unusual happens, we break off immediately. The next few hours passed slowly. Human and Valoran ships practiced working together. They ran through rescue scenarios and defensive formations. The Valorans were quick learners, but Jake could see they were uncomfortable with military tactics. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez called from the forward observation post. Captain, I'm detecting massive fleet movements heading toward Valoran space. These aren't trade ships or explorers. These are warships. Jake's blood ran cold. How many? At least 300 ships, maybe more. They're spread across multiple fleets, but they're all converging on the same area. The Valoran homeworld, Jake whispered. Admiral Kethmoran's face appeared on screen again. This time, he looked afraid. Captain, our people on Serenity Prime report that Council ships have surrounded our system. They are demanding we cease all cooperation with humans immediately. What are you telling them? We have told them that our friendship with humans is not their concern. We are a free people. Jake knew that was the wrong answer to give the Galactic Council. They did not like being told no. They especially did not like species that refused to obey their rules. Admiral, I think you should prepare your people for trouble, Jake said carefully. Trouble? Captain, we are a peaceful people. We have no enemies. Surely the Council would not harm us for being friends with humans. Jake wished he could believe that, but he had studied the Council's history. They had destroyed species before for much smaller reasons. The Valorans' crime was bigger. They had made humans stronger. They had shared technology that could change the balance of power in the Galactic Galaxy. Lisa, get back to Earth immediately, Jake ordered. Tell Admiral Carter that the Council is planning something big. We need to be ready. What about the Valorans? Lisa asked. Jake looked at Admiral Kethmoran's worried face. We'll do whatever we can to help them. But right now, we're outnumbered. 100 to 1. The training exercise ended early. As the human ships prepared to leave, Jake felt like he was abandoning his friends. The Valorans had welcomed humans with open arms. They had shared their greatest treasures without asking for anything in return. They had trusted humans completely. Now that trust might get them all killed. Captain, Ensign Santos called out. Admiral Carter is requesting immediate communication. Jake took the call in his private office. Admiral Rick Carter appeared on screen. He was a tough man with gray hair and steel-gray eyes. Jake, we have a problem. Our intelligence sources report that the Galactic Council has issued a secret order. They're calling it Operation Clean Slate. The details are classified, but it involves the Valorans. Sir, what does that mean? Admiral Carter's face was grim. It means the Council has decided that the Human-Valoran alliance is a threat that must be eliminated, and they're planning to eliminate it permanently. Jake felt his heart sink. The Valorans had no idea what was coming. They believed in peace and diplomacy. They thought that words could solve any problem. But Jake knew better. Sometimes words weren't enough. Sometimes people had to fight for. What was right? Double quote, sir. What are your orders? For now, we wait and watch. But Jake, if the Council makes a move against the Valorans, we'll be ready. Those people saved millions of human lives with their medicine. We won't forget that debt. Jake nodded. He just hoped they wouldn't be too late to pay it back. The attack came without warning at dawn. On Serenity Prime. Captain Jake Morrison was sleeping when the alarm screamed through his ship. He jumped from his bed and ran to the bridge. Outside his window, he saw something that made his blood freeze. Hundreds of Galactic Council warships surrounded the Valoran homeworld. Their weapons were already firing. "Report!" Jake shouted as he reached his command chair. "Captain, the Council fleet opened fire on all Valoran positions simultaneously," Lieutenant Cruz said. His voice shook with shock. "They're not targeting military sites. They're hitting everything." Jake watched in horror as bright flashes lit up the planet's surface. Entire cities were disappearing under the bombardment. The Valorans had only 12 defensive ships, and they were already burning wrecks floating in space. "Get me Admiral Kethmorin," Jake ordered. "Sir." His ship was destroyed in the first wave, Ensign Santos reported. Her face was pale. "We're picking up emergency signals from Valoran civilian transports, but Council fighters are hunting them down." Jake's hands clenched into fists. This wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. "Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral Carter," Santos called out. Admiral Carter's face appeared on screen. Behind him, Jake could see the chaos of Earth's command center. "Jake, what's your status?" "Sir, the Council is massacring the Valorans. This isn't a military action. They're killing civilians. Women, children, everyone." Carter's jaw tightened. "How many ships do you have?" "Just my patrol group. 6 ships total." "Sir, there are over 300 Council warships here." "We can't fight them all." "I'm not ordering you to fight them, Jake. I'm ordering you to save who you can." Jake understood. It was a suicide mission, but he couldn't just watch the Valorans die. These people had saved his daughter's life with their cancer cure 2 years ago. They had welcomed humans as family. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison," Jake broadcast to his small fleet. "We're going in. Target the Council fighters attacking civilian transports. Our job is to save lives, not to win a war." The USS Defiance and her sister ships dove toward the planet. Jake's crew worked with desperate efficiency. They couldn't save everyone, but they could save some. "Valoran transport at coordinates 127 Mark 45, called out Lieutenant Cruz. 3 Council fighters closing in. "Take them out," Jake ordered. The Defiance's weapons lanced out. The Council fighters weren't expecting human ships to interfere. 2 exploded immediately. The third broke off its attack. "Transport, this is Captain Morrison. Follow us to the jump point. We'll get you to safety." The Valoran ship was badly damaged. Jake could see holes in its hull, but it was still flying, still carrying hundreds of innocent people away from the slaughter. For 2 hours, Jake's ships played a deadly game of rescue. They would find Valoran transports under attack, drive off the Council fighters, and escort the survivors to safety. It was dangerous work. Jake lost 2 ships and 50 good people, but they saved lives. Thousands of lives. During one rescue, Jake met Mirafel, the daughter of Ambassador Zethkalar. She was injured but alive, carrying her family's data archives. Her father had been killed in the first wave, but she had managed to escape with vital Valoran knowledge. "Why are they doing this?" she asked Jake as medical teams treated her wounds. "We never hurt anyone. We only wanted to help." Jake didn't have an answer. He had seen war before, but nothing like this. The Council wasn't just destroying the Valorans. They were erasing them from existence. "Captain," Lieutenant Cruz called from the bridge. "We're picking up a transmission from Commander Bennett." Lisa Bennett's face appeared on screen. She looked terrible. Her uniform was torn and bloody. Behind her, Jake could see the interior of a damaged Valoran science ship. "Jake, thank God you're alive," she said. "I barely made it off the planet." The Council isn't just attacking military targets. They're destroying hospitals, schools, even refugee camps. "How many survivors are there?" Lisa's face crumpled. "Maybe a few 100,000 out of 400 million. Jake, they're not trying to conquer the Valorans. They're trying to wipe them out completely. Jake felt sick. Genocide, that's what this was. A systematic murder of an entire species. I have recordings, Lisa continued. The council leadership is calling it a cleansing operation, they say. The Valorans were corrupting the galaxy with their ideas about cooperation and free knowledge sharing. We need to get that evidence to Earth, Jake said. Already transmitted. But Jake, there's something else. Before he died, the Valoran High Council gave me something. They're trusting humanity with their most sacred archives. All their medical knowledge, their scientific research, their cultural history. They want us to preserve it. Jake understood the weight of that responsibility. The Valorans were dying, but their legacy would live on through humanity. Captain, council ships are moving to intercept us, Cruz reported. We need to leave now. Jake hated running away, but he had no choice. His small fleet was outnumbered and outgunned. They had saved who they could. Now they needed to survive to tell the story. All ships, jump to hyperspace. Destination, Earth. As the stars streaked past, Jake watched the Valoran homeworld disappear behind them. Serenity Prime was still burning. The council ships were still firing. The massacre was still continuing. Major Steve Collins, monitoring communications from his post near Earth, intercepted council transmissions that made everything clear. The attack had been planned for months. The council called it Operation Clean Slate. Their goal was to eliminate the Valorans completely and send a message to any other species that might consider allying with humans. The transmissions were brutal in their honesty. High Admiral Vexter, the operations commander, spoke about the Valorans like they were insects to be exterminated. He talked about their dangerous ideas and their corruption of the natural order. But what made Jake's blood boil was the Council's plan for humanity. The Valorans were just the beginning. Once they were gone, the Council would move against human colonies. They would isolate Earth, cut off trade, and slowly strangle human civilization. They picked the wrong species to mess with, Jake muttered as he watched the hyperspace tunnel flow past his ship. The journey to Earth took 3 days. During that time, reports came in from across Valoran space. The Council had hit every Valoran colony, every research station, every peaceful settlement. The few survivors were scattered and hiding. By the time Jake's fleet reached Earth, the news had already arrived. The Valoran genocide was complete. 400 million people were dead. An entire civilization had been wiped out in less than a week. Jake landed his ship at Luna Base, humanity's main military station. He was met by Admiral Carter and a group of senior officers. All of them looked angry. Captain, your report, Carter said. Sir, the Valorans are gone. The Council didn't just defeat them. They erased them. Men, women, children, everyone. The only survivors are the few thousand we managed to rescue. Carter's face was stone. Jake, I want you to know that President Murphy has called an emergency session of Congress. The preliminary vote was unanimous. We're going to war. Jake felt a mixture of relief and fear. Relief that humanity wouldn't let this crime go unpunished. Fear because he knew what war with the Galactic Council would cost. Sir, what are my orders? You're being promoted to Commodore and given command of the new Vengeance fleet. We're building ships designed for one purpose, to make the Council pay for what they did. Jake nodded. The Valorans had been peaceful, trusting people. They had believed in the goodness of others. That belief had gotten them killed, but humans were different. Humans knew how to fight. Humans knew how to hold grudges. And humans never forgot their friends. The Galactic Council had made a mistake. They thought that destroying the Valorans would weaken humanity. Instead, they had given humanity a reason to unite like never before. The Valorans were gone, but their memory would live on. and their deaths would be avenged. Jake looked out at the stars and made a promise. The Council had started this war by murdering innocents. Humanity would finish it by bringing justice to the galaxy. The hunt was about to begin. President Helen Murphy stood before a joint session of Congress, her face hard as stone. Behind her, a massive screen showed images from the Valoran massacre. Empty cities, burning ships, the faces of the dead. 400 million innocent people are gone, she said. Her voice carried to every corner of the packed chamber. The Valorans welcomed us as friends. They shared their knowledge freely. They asked for nothing but friendship in return. The chamber was silent. Even the most peaceful politicians understood what had happened. This wasn't war. This was murder. The Galactic Council has declared war on everything we stand for, Murphy continued. They have shown us that there is no safety in peace when dealing with tyrants. Therefore, I am asking Congress to authorize full military mobilization. We will not let this crime go unpunished. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in human history, the entire planet united behind a single cause. The Valorans had to be avenged. Admiral Rick Carter was promoted to Supreme Fleet Commander within hours of the vote. He stood in the Pentagon's war room, surrounded by maps of the galaxy and reports from intelligence agents across known space. Sir, the shipyards are already converting to wartime production, reported General Patricia Hayes. Every major corporation has volunteered their facilities. Boeing, Lockheed, SpaceX, even civilian manufacturers are retooling their factories. Carter nodded. How long before we have a real fleet? 6 months for the first wave of new ships. But sir, we're also retrofitting every vessel we have. Cargo haulers, mining ships, even luxury liners are being converted into warships. Carter looked at the tactical displays. Earth had maybe 200 military ships. The Galactic Council had over 10,000 scattered across their territory. But Carter knew something the Council didn't. Humans were very good at building things quickly. When they were angry, what about personnel? Recruitment stations are overwhelmed. We have 3 million volunteers, and the numbers keep growing. Every human colony is sending ships and crews. Dr. Nathan Clark walked into the war room carrying a data pad. He looked tired but determined. Nathan had worked closely with Valoran scientists for 3 years. He had been on Serenity Prime just 2 weeks before the attack. Admiral, I have something that might help, Nathan said. The Valorans shared their complete technological database with us before they died. I've been working with the survivors to understand it all. What kind of technology? Things we never imagined. Medical scanners that can detect Council species from light years away. Energy shields that can stop their weapons. Even cloaking devices that make ships invisible to their sensors. Carter's eyes lit up. How long to implement these technologies? Some of it we can use right away. Other systems will take months to fully understand. But Admiral, there's something else. The Valorans weren't as defenseless as everyone thought. Nathan activated his datapad. Holographic displays showed strange weapon designs. They never built weapons because they didn't believe in violence. But they understood physics better than anyone. These designs could create weapons more powerful than anything the Council has. Build them, Carter ordered. Build everything. We're going to hit the Council so hard, they'll regret the day they ever heard of humans. Meanwhile, Commodore Jake Morrison stood in the construction bay, watching his new ship take shape. The USS Vengeance was bigger than any ship humans had ever built. Its hull was black as space, covered with armor that could stop Council weapons. Inside, it carried weapons that had never been tested in battle. She's beautiful, said Captain Linda Walsh, who would command one of the Vengeance's sister ships. She's deadly, Jake corrected. The Council killed our friends. This ship is going to make them pay. Commander Lisa Bennett approached them. She had been promoted to Chief of Alien Relations after her escape from Serenity Prime. Her job was to find allies among the other species oppressed by the Council. "Jake, Linda, I have good news," Lisa said. "The Zilithian Traders Union has agreed to help us. They're tired of the Council's trade restrictions." "What can they offer?" Jake asked. "Ships, supplies, and most importantly, information. They know where every Council fleet is stationed. They also hate the Council almost as much as we do." "Any other allies?" "The Arconic explorers are interested. So is the Minimal Union. The Council has been bullying smaller species for centuries. They're all happy to see someone finally standing up to them." Jake smiled grimly. The Council had made many enemies over the years. They ruled through fear and intimidation. But fear only worked when people had no hope. Humanity was giving the galaxy hope. Colonel Ryan Brooks materialized next to them, his stealth suit flickering as it deactivated. Ryan led Earth's intelligence operations in Council space. He had been gathering information for weeks. "Report," Jake said. "The Council is scared," Ryan said. "Their intelligence services know we're building ships, but they don't know how many or what kind. More importantly, they don't know about the Valoran technology we're incorporating. What about their leadership? High Admiral Vexter is still bragging about the Valoran massacre. He thinks it makes him look strong. The other Council leaders are starting to worry that he's made humanity too angry." "Good. Fear makes people make mistakes," Ryan nodded. "I've also located several of their major supply depots and communication centers. If we hit them at the same time, we could cripple their ability to coordinate their fleets." Jake studied the intelligence reports. The Council was spread thin across the galaxy. They had many ships, but those ships were scattered. If humans could strike fast and hard, they could do serious damage before the Council could respond. "Lisa, how long before alien allies are ready to move?" "The Zilithians can start immediately. The others need more time to prepare." "But Jake, there's something else. Mirathel wants to speak with you." Jake found the young Valoran in the observation deck of Luna Base. She was looking out at Earth, watching the planet that had become her new home. In the months since the massacre, she had grown close to the human survivors who had rescued her. "Commodore Morrison," she said without turning around, "I have been thinking about revenge." "Oh?" "My people believed that violence only created more violence. We thought that peace was always the answer. We were wrong." Jake said nothing. He understood her pain. "The Council did not just kill my family. They killed my entire species. They erased 4 billion years of evolution. They destroyed knowledge that could have helped the entire galaxy." She turned to face him. Her large eyes were filled with tears, but also with something else: determination. "I want to help you make them. Pay. Myra, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. I am the last daughter of Ambassador Zeth Kalar. My father dedicated his life to building bridges between species. The Council murdered him for that dream. If I do nothing, then they win completely." Jake nodded. "What do you want to do?" "I know things about Council psychology that humans do." "Not. I know their weaknesses. I know how to hurt them where it matters most." "Their pride?" "Exactly. The Council believes they are superior to all other species. They think they are meant to rule the galaxy. But what if a species they consider primitive defeated them? What if humans proved that the Council is not as strong as they pretend?" Jake smiled. "That would destroy their credibility with every species in the galaxy. More than that, it would prove that resistance is possible. Other species would follow humanity's example." Over the following months, Earth's war machine grew at an incredible pace. Factories that had built cars now built starships. Computer companies designed targeting systems. Even entertainment companies contributed. creating propaganda that kept human morale high. The Valoran survivors worked tirelessly alongside human scientists. They shared every secret, every piece of advanced knowledge they possessed. It was their final gift to the galaxy. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution, watching the first wave of the new fleet assemble. 200 ships, each one incorporating the best of human engineering and Valoran science. They were faster than Council ships, better armed, and crewed by people who had something the Council didn't understand: purpose. "Admiral, all ships report." "Ready," said his aide, Lieutenant Kellystone. "Signal the fleet. Operation Righteous Fury begins now." Across human space, ships began jumping to hyperspace. Their destinations were spread across 100 light years. Council supplied depots, communication centers, and patrol bases. The targets had been chosen carefully to cause maximum disruption with minimum civilian casualties. Humanity was going to war, but they were going to do it the right way. They would not become the monsters they were fighting. Jake's fleet jumped toward their first target, a Council patrol base in the Titan's gate system. As the stars streaked past, Jake thought about the Valorans who had died. They had believed in peace, but sometimes peace was not enough. Sometimes you had to fight for what was right. The Council had started this war by committing genocide. Humanity would finish it by bringing justice to the galaxy. And when it was over, the Valorans would be remembered as the species whose sacrifice united the galaxy against tyranny. The hunt had begun. The USS Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Titan's gate system. Commodore Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching his tactical displays. 3 Council patrol ships were stationed near the system's main asteroid mining facility. "Stealth systems active," reported Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim from the weapons station. "The Valoran cloaking technology is working perfectly." "They can't see us," Jake nodded. This would be humanity's first real test against the Council. The Valoran technology made human ships nearly invisible, but they had never used it in actual combat before. "All ships maintain stealth formation," Jake ordered over the comm. "Remember, we hit fast and hard. No survivors means no witnesses." The human fleet moved silently through the asteroid field. 6 ships against 3, but the element of surprise made the odds even better. "Target acquisition complete," Kim reported. "All Council ships are in range. Fire." The Vengeance's new weapons, based on Valoran physics principles, lanced out across space. The energy beams were invisible until they hit their targets. The first Council ship exploded before its crew even knew they were under attack. The second and third Council ships tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't target what they couldn't see. Within 5 minutes, all 3 were burning wrecks floating among the asteroids. "Any distress signals?" Jake asked. "Negative, sir. We destroyed their communication arrays first. No one knows what happened here." Jake felt a cold satisfaction. The Council had murdered the Valorans without warning. Now they would get a taste of their own medicine. Secure the mining facility, download all their data, then plant the message beacon. Human Marines boarded the Council mining station. They found detailed records of the facility's operations, including shipping schedules and defense plans for other Council installations. But more importantly, they found something that made Jake's blood boil. "Sir, you need to see this," called Major Tony Rodriguez over the comm. Jake beamed down to the station. Rodriguez led him to the facility's main computer core. "They have records here about the Valoran attack," Rodriguez said. "Detailed reports about the genocide. But sir, they're celebrating it. They call it Operation Clean Slate. Complete success." Jake read the reports. Council officers bragging about how many Valorans they had killed, statistics about the destruction, plans for similar operations against other species that didn't obey Council rules. Upload everything to the message beacon, Jake ordered. The galaxy needs to see what the Council really is. The message beacon was a special device that would broadcast on all known communication frequencies. When other species found it, they would learn the truth about the Valoran genocide. They would see the Council's own records proving their guilt. Beacon deployed, sir. Broadcasting on all channels. Good. Time to move to the next target. Over. The following weeks, human fleets struck at Council positions across a 200 light-year radius. They hit supply depots, communication relays, patrol bases, and isolated outposts. Each attack was quick and deadly, leaving behind only wreckage and message beacons. The strategy was working. The Council's ability to coordinate their vast fleets was breaking down. They couldn't communicate with many of their ships. They couldn't resupply their forward positions. Most importantly, they couldn't predict where humans would strike next. Commander Lisa Bennett worked from Luna Base, coordinating with humanity's growing list of allies. The Zilithian traders had provided detailed maps of Council shipping routes. The Arconic explorers shared intelligence about Council fleet movements. Even the peaceful Minimal Union had begun disrupting Council supply lines. The Council is losing control, Lisa reported to Admiral Carter. 17 species have formally withdrawn from their alliance in the past month. Others are refusing to follow Council orders. What about their military response? They're trying to mass their fleets, but our hit-and-run tactics are keeping them scattered. Every time they pull ships together to hunt us, we hit a different target somewhere else. Carter smiled grimly. How many ships have we destroyed? Over 300 confirmed kills. We've also captured or destroyed enough supplies to cripple their logistics network. And our losses? 12 ships, about 400 people. The Valoran stealth technology is keeping our casualties low. Carter nodded. The exchange rate was heavily in humanity's favor. But he knew this phase of the war wouldn't last forever. Eventually, the Council would adapt their tactics. Colonel Ryan Brooks materialized in Carter's office, his stealth suit flickering off. He had just returned from a deep reconnaissance mission in Council space. Report, Carter said. Sir, I've located High Admiral Vexler. He's commanding the Council's response from his flagship, the Dominion's Pride. The ship is stationed at the Nexus system, their main military headquarters. How well defended? Very. Over 200 ships in the system, including their newest battleships. But, sir, there's something else. I intercepted communications between Vexler and the Council leadership. They're planning something called Operation Final Solution. Carter's face darkened. What kind of operation? They're going to attack Earth directly. A massive fleet, over 1,000 ships. They plan to do to humanity what they did to the Valorans. Carter felt ice in his veins. The Council was getting desperate. They knew they were losing the public relations war. Species across the galaxy were learning the truth about the Valoran genocide. The Council's reputation was crumbling. When? 3 months. They need time to gather ships from across their territory. But, sir, when they move, it will be with everything they have. Carter activated his emergency communication system. Within minutes, he was speaking with military leaders across human space. The Council is planning a final assault on Earth, he announced. We have 3 months to prepare, but we're not going to wait for them to come to us. We're going to hit them first. Jake's fleet was attacking a Council supply depot when they received the new orders. They were to rendezvous with the main human fleet at coordinates deep in neutral space. All ships abort current mission, Jake ordered. Jump to the rendezvous. Point immediately. When Jake arrived at the coordinates, he was amazed by what he saw. Over 400 human ships were assembled in the empty space between star systems. Ships from Earth, from the colonies, from human allies across the galaxy. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Admiral Carter's flagship, the Retribution, was at the center of the formation. Jake beamed aboard for the command. "Briefing. Commodore Morrison," Carter said as Jake entered the briefing room. "Good to see you." The room was packed with human commanders and alien allies. Jake recognized several Zilithian captains and at least one Arconic explorer. "The situation has changed," Carter announced. "The Council is planning a direct assault on Earth. We're going to stop them before they get there." Holographic displays showed the Nexus system, the heart of Council military power. Hundreds of enemy ships orbited the massive space station that served as their headquarters. This is where High Admiral Vexter is coordinating the Council's response to our attacks. If we can destroy their command structure, their entire military will collapse. "Sir," said Captain Walsh, "that's a heavily defended system." "They have over 200 ships there." "Yes, but they're not expecting us. They think we're still running hit-and-run missions against minor targets. They don't know we've assembled this fleet." Jake studied the tactical data. It would be a difficult battle, but it was possible. The human fleet was smaller than the Council force, but human ships were better equipped and their crews were more motivated. "What about civilian casualties?" asked one of the Zilithian captains. "The Nexus station has minimal civilian population," Carter replied. "It's primarily a military facility. But we're going to be careful anyway. We're not like the Council. We don't target innocents." Mirithel stepped forward. The young Valoran had been working with human intelligence for months, studying Council psychology and tactics. "Admiral, I have studied their defensive patterns," she said. "The Council commanders are arrogant. They believe their numbers make them invincible. They will not expect a direct assault. What do you recommend? Hit them with everything at once. Don't give them time to organize a proper defense. The Council fights best when they can coordinate their fleets. If you can create chaos, they will make mistakes." Jake nodded. It made sense. The Council had ruled for so long that they had become overconfident. They expected other species to fear them. "There's something else," Carter said. "Our intelligence. Reports that several Council member species are having second thoughts about this war. If we can prove that the Council military can be defeated, some of them might switch sides." "And if we fail?" asked Captain Walsh. Carter's face was grim. "Then the Council fleet will reach Earth in 3 months, and humanity will face the same fate as the Valorans." The meeting continued for hours as they planned the assault. Every detail was discussed, every possible problem considered. They would have one chance to get this right. 3 days later, the human fleet jumped to hyperspace. Their destination was the Nexus system, the heart of Council power. As the stars streaked past, Jake thought about all the events that had led to this moment. A year ago, humans and Valorans had been training together as allies. The galaxy had seemed peaceful. The aftermath of the Battle of Nexus changed everything. Within hours of the Council fleet's defeat, news of the victory spread across the galaxy. Species that had been oppressed by the Council for centuries began openly celebrating. The Zilithian trade union declared independence. The Arconic explorers announced they would no longer follow Council trade restrictions. Even some of the Council's own member species began withdrawing their support. Commodore Jake Morrison stood in the damaged bridge of the USS Vengeance, reading reports from across known space. The ship was limping back to Earth for repairs, but Jake had never felt more proud of his crew. "Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Carter," reported Lieutenant Cruz. Carter's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Jake could see the captured Nexus station, now flying human flags alongside the symbols of their alien allies. "Jake, excellent work out there. How's your ship?" "Damaged but functional, sir. We'll need a month in dry dock, but we're Operational. Good. I have a new mission for you. We've captured High Admiral Vexther. Jake's heart skipped a beat. I thought he was killed when his ship exploded. He was in an escape pod. Marine teams found him hiding in the wreckage. He's alive, and he's talking. Jake felt a mixture of satisfaction and anger. Vexther was the monster who had ordered the genocide of the Valorans. Jake had hoped he was dead. What's he saying? He's trying to negotiate, offering to provide information about Council operations in exchange for his life. But Jake, there's something else. He's demanding to speak with you personally. Me? Why? He says you're the one who defeated him. He claims he'll only talk to the human commander who destroyed his fleet. Jake considered this. Vexther was a war criminal responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions of people. But he might have information that could help end the war faster. Where is he being held? Luna. Base, maximum security. Jake, I want you to know that whatever you decide to do, you have my full support. The man is responsible for genocide. As far as I'm concerned, he's already dead. Jake understood. Carter was giving him permission to do whatever he thought was right. Justice or revenge, the choice was his to make. I'll speak with him, Jake decided. 3 days later, Jake stood outside a heavily guarded cell on Luna Base. Through the reinforced window, he could see High Admiral Vexther sitting at a simple table. The hegemon leader looked smaller than Jake had expected. Without his impressive uniform and flagship, he was just an aging alien with too much blood on his hands. Are you ready, sir? Asked Major Rodriguez, the security chief. Jake nodded. Door opened, and he stepped into the cell. Vexther looked up as Jake entered. The alien's eyes were dark and calculating. Even in captivity, he carried himself with arrogance. Commodore Morrison, Vexther said in accented English. The human who thinks he can challenge the natural order of the galaxy. The human who defeated. You, Jake corrected. Vexther's expression darkened. A temporary victory. The Council has thousands of ships. You have destroyed one fleet. We will rebuild. No, you won't. Your member species are abandoning you. Your supply lines are cut. Your command structure is in ruins. The Council is finished. Is it? And what will replace it? Human rule? You think you can control the galaxy better than we did? Jake pulled out a chair and sat down across from Vexther. We don't want to control the galaxy. We want to free it. Vexther laughed, a harsh sound. Naive. Every species seeks dominance. It is the natural way. The strong rule the weak. The Valorans didn't seek dominance. They sought cooperation. The Valorans were weak. They were a threat to galactic stability. Jake felt his anger rising. They were peaceful. They helped other species. They saved millions of lives with their medical knowledge. They were corrupting the natural order. Species should remain separate, controlled, manageable. The Valorans were teaching others to think differently, to question authority, to believe they deserved freedom. So you murdered them all. I eliminated a threat, just as I would eliminate any threat to proper order. Jake stared at the alien across from him. This was the mind that had ordered genocide. This was the thinking that had led to the deaths of an entire species. Admiral Carter says you want to make a deal, Jake said. I can provide information about Council operations, fleet positions, supply routes, political weaknesses. In exchange, I want guarantees of safety and comfortable imprisonment. Why would? You betray your own people? Vexther's expression became calculating. Because I am practical. The Council, as it existed, is finished. But chaos will follow. Hundreds of species will fight for control. The galaxy will tear itself apart. Or it will learn to govern itself. Impossible. Lesser species cannot be trusted with freedom. They need guidance, control, firm leadership. Jake realized that Vexthar genuinely believed what he was saying. To him, the genocide wasn't evil. It was just necessary maintenance of galactic order. What information do you have? The locations of the Council's remaining fleet concentrations. The identities of political leaders who would be willing to negotiate. Secret weapon projects that could still pose a threat to human forces. Jake considered this. The information could save thousands of human lives. It could end the war faster, but it would mean letting a war criminal live. There's one more thing. Vexthar said. What? I want to address the galaxy. To explain why the Valoran action was necessary. To warn them about the chaos that will follow the Council's fall. Jake stared at him. You want to justify genocide? I want to provide context. The Valorans were not innocent victims. They were a threat to galactic stability. Their ideas about cooperation and free knowledge sharing would have led to chaos. Their ideas about cooperation were what made them great. Their ideas about cooperation were what got them killed. Jake stood up. He had heard enough. This creature would never understand what he had done wrong. He would never feel remorse for the hundreds of millions of lives he had taken. I'll consider your offer, Jake said. Commodore, you should know that I am not the only one who believes as I do. The Council represented the natural order. Without it, stronger species will simply take control by force. At least we maintain stability. Jake left the cell without another word. Outside, Major Rodriguez was waiting. What did you think of? Him, sir? He's a monster who thinks he's a hero, Jake replied. But he might have information we need. Jake spent the next day considering his options. He could accept Vexthar's deal and get valuable intelligence. Or he could refuse and let the war drag on longer. The decision was made for him when Commander Lisa Bennett arrived at Luna Base with urgent news. Jake, we've received communications from 17 species that were part of the Council, she said. They want to negotiate peace terms. What kind of terms? Complete withdrawal from human space. Recognition of the Valoran genocide as a crime against sentient life. Reparations for the surviving Valorans. And most importantly, they want to help establish a new galactic government based on cooperation instead of domination. Jake felt a surge of hope. They're willing to abandon the Council system? Most of them never liked it. They were forced to participate by Council military power. With that power broken, they want something better. What about the Hegemon Empire? And the Syndicate Coalition? The Hegemon Empire is in civil war. Different factions are fighting for control. The Syndicate Coalition is collapsing as their trade networks fail. The species that really mattered have already switched sides. Jake realized that Vexthar's information might not be as valuable as he thought. The Council was disintegrating on its own. The war was essentially over, but there was still the question of justice. A week later, Jake stood before the newly formed Galactic Assembly. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the Great Hall. At the center of the room, High Admiral Vexthar sat in a prisoner's dock. High Admiral Vexthar, said Assembly President Calathin, a dignified Archonic leader. You stand accused of crimes against sentient life. How do you plead? Vexthar stood slowly. Even in chains, he maintained his arrogant posture. I plead not guilty. I acted to preserve galactic order and stability. A murmur of anger rippled through the assembly. Many of the species present had suffered under Council rule. You ordered the systematic extermination of the Valoran species, President Calathin continued. Over 400 million people died. How do you justify this action? The Valorans were a threat to galactic stability. Their ideas about cooperation and free knowledge sharing would have led to chaos. I acted to prevent a greater catastrophe. Mirathel stood up in the witness section. She was one of only a few thousand Valoran survivors. and she had been chosen to speak for her people. "You killed my father," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the silent hall. "You killed my mother. You killed my friends, my teachers, my entire civilization. We never threatened anyone. We only wanted to help." "Your people were naive," Nextha replied. "They did not understand the realities of galactic politics. Their influence was dangerous." "Our influence was hope," Mirthel shot back. "We showed other species that cooperation was possible. That knowledge could be shared freely. That different species could work together as equals." "Exactly. You were undermining the natural order." Jake stood up. "What natural order?" "The order where one species dominates all others, where freedom